time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking, but be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama said that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Hello, welcome to the second part of Meldon Law Monday. I am Buddy Martin. The program is called Meldon Law Monday, and we're back for a reboot. We got our big guy here, the guy we call the Iron Duke. Franz joins the program in just a moment. Before RIP to one of the greats, a guy I had the pleasure of meeting one time, a true Gator fan, and a guy that music will miss as well. Jimmy Buffett. One of the greats, passed away at 76, but if you know that, it's one of the songs there that he did. Always loved that. Had a chance to visit him in Colorado while I was there, and he loved his Gators. So, all right, we're going to issues with Wi-Fi. Hopefully it's cleared up now. You let me know if we still have a problem, and we'll do our best endeavor that to do. Take care of it. So, all right. Let's do this. Let's go to the orange and blue room where the guy's standing by and always does a great job for us. That would be Franz Spears. I said Sears. I wish you were Sears, like Sears and Roebuck. You'd be great. Francis, a good evening to you. I'm going to turn this over to you for a minute and let you just share your thoughts about what you saw. All right, the microphone is yours. I'm going to stand back and let you tell people what you saw, why they should or should not be concerned about the Florida Gators.
Well, Buddy, there are concerns, of course, but are they correctable? Can they be addressed? And the answer to that is, of course, they can. And yes, I believe they will be. Today, Billy Napier was very adamant. He said, we will fix it. You go back to this ball game. I will concede that 70-yard touchdown pass on the opening play because of Utah, because let's face it, it's the first game, stuff happens, jitters, you name it, lots of new starters. But after that, everything Utah scored was a giveaway, was a gift. Florida gave Utah 20 points, any way you look at it. 3 by the missed field goal by Adam Mahalik, and 17, 3 of those on a shank punt, and 2 touchdowns. Both of them just absolute gifts. In the meantime, the Gators self-destructed. They should have won this game 28-7. Any way you look at it, they should have won it. They outplayed Utah. They outdefended Utah. The defense, I thought, you take away those 2 plays, and Utah didn't even average 3 yards a play. If you take that, the 2 chunk plays away, 97 to their 270 yards. That's pretty good when you're doing that. You're holding people to small gains, etc. Now, the problem with the Gators goes to the offensive side, I believe, where you can't keep making the same mistake over and over again. Billy today, I thought, was being kind when he said that the problems were multiple players, not just the O-line. I think he was trying to be very defensive of his offensive line. But I think the problems all stem from the offensive line and not having Kingsley Egwakun there. And if they don't get him back in a hurry, I think the offensive line is going to struggle. I think a lot of the problems on the right tackle with Damian George were because mix-ups in the line signals. I think that Florida I don't think Utah was that good defensively on the front. I don't think they could overpower Florida the way they did if they weren't showing something that maybe the center hadn't seen, wasn't prepared for, etc. This is where you come in with the veteran, Kingsley Eguakun, with 26 consecutive starts. And, we talk about experience. Experience does make a difference, particularly at this level and in this type of game. So get Kingsley back. I think the offensive line settles down. Rob Sale and Darnell Stapleton are too good at coaches for them not to get these things corrected. And there's too much talent there. There's too much size. There's too much talent. They look like an SEC team. Now, can they play like an SEC team? I think Graham Mertz was, I'm not going to say he was spectacular, but he was good. He wasn't great. He was good. I think he was 31 for 42 throwing the football, set more than 75%. And I think had he been given adequate time to throw, if he hadn't become a little gun shy there at the end, I've had people say, well, there were wide open people in the middle of the field. And they pointed one out on one play. And I got to admit, after watching the replay twice now, I think that Graham Mertz missed that throw. But I think it was because he had been hit, been sacked, and he knew that in the timing, the clock in his head was telling him, get rid of the ball. So he went to the first open guy he saw on that play. And I think there were 2 or 3 other occasions when that happened. I think there were a couple of occasions when he may have held the ball a little too long, waiting for somebody to do something. Maybe a receiver ran a wrong route or something like that. It was a big mess is what it was. But again, when we go back, we look at it, and, buddy, I didn't see anything out there that wasn't correctable. I didn't see anything that wasn't correctable. Maybe you did, maybe the audience did, but I didn't see it. If they're unable to correct it, I think that they got real problems. But everything I saw says they can correct the problems.
Good analysis. I think there was a frustration there because we all were kind of primed and ready for a big showing. You had the viewing, you had the audience, you had the venue. It just felt like it was a big game, Franz. And we didn't get that. And I think everybody was disappointed, including Shane Matthews, who was on earlier. He wasn't very happy. But we've been this is not our first, second, third, or fourth, fifth rodeo. We've been through a lot of them. We understand this happens early on in the season when you lose a game. I think the frustration was that some of the same things we saw last year, we're seeing again this year.
Oh, yeah.
And then you add in the fact that the really blunderous call having 2 guys on the field with the same number. And the criticism is he's got 100 guys. You can't get one guy to get the right numbers, that kind of thing. So the Billy's going to take some heat. Now, do you feel like that a good win over McNeese State, and they'll come out smoking against Tennessee, and maybe things will get right with the world, right?
Well, I think one thing that can happen in McNeese State, here's what you got. And I think they're fortunate to be playing a D1AA team, buddy. I think because they're going to be able to get out there, work out some kinks, get some guys in, and maybe they got a couple guys that they are thinking, well, let's see how this guy performs. And you need to see him performing against somebody other than one of his own players, And so I think that this is going to give them that opportunity. Okay, you get, let's just use a random position. Let's say the left guard. Okay, and you want to see Najee Harris. Maybe you want to. Maybe Kingsley can't come back. And maybe you want to see Richie Leonard there because Richie's been the backup center for a couple of years. So maybe you're thinking, okay, let's move Richie Leonard over there because Jake Slaughter had a difficult time. We can get in there again. We can move him over. We can see how Najee Harris does blocking somebody that's not his own teammate. And I think that things like that are welcome opportunities. And that's what I think that we have to look at this game as. This game's an opportunity. Florida needs to get guys straight. They got to get their heads right, and they need momentum of a win. And I don't care if it's over in Western Walla Walla. They've got to get a win over somebody. And fortunately for them, it will be McNeese State, which got blown out by Tarleton State, which is a member of something called the United Athletic Conference, which I had never heard of until about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Didn't know there was such a thing, but there is, and Tarleton State's a member of it. 12,000 McNeese faithful watched the Cowboys go down in flames to the Tarleton Texans. And now McNeese has got to come here, paycheck game. You got to pay somehow or another. You got to pay for the volleyball, the soccer scholarships, the cross-country scholarships, the softball scholarships, etc. And this is what these games are all for.
Let's get right to the heart of the matter here. I'm not going to be hypercritical of Billy. You know, I think a lot of him, and I think he can get the job done. But you said the whole time he's going to need time. We have a different clock now than we used to have. We see now how teams are coming out that can do. Deion didn't help him any at all by doing what he did. Whether Deion's successful or not, his team was ready. So I'm going to put this to you. Let's just tell it like it really, what people are thinking about. We don't dare say it. Doesn't represent my view or yours, but there are people with lots of money, and I know some of them who are saying this is not acceptable. We can't have this. And Franz, if they decide to stop paying NIL money, they got a problem. And so Tennessee becomes a huge game for that reason. And now let's take it one more step. Again, I'm not saying this should happen, nor am I endorsing the idea, but it's what people are talking about. If they get rid of Billy, which would be a mistake, who would you get? They don't want another guy from the Sun Belt Conference. Somebody told me the guy at Kansas State, K-State's player. They don't want a guy from K-State. They want a proven, bona fide winner who can get championships, right? Does that fit a description of anybody you know, Franz?
Well, here's the thing: is everybody wants to talk about bringing, a winner. I even had somebody text me today and said, let's see, Urban Meyer lives in Florida. Let's bring him back. Whatever it takes, let's bring him back. He would come back. And the answer to that is no, Urban wouldn't come back, first and foremost. Urban, I believe Urban when he says it. I believe Shelley when she says it. The coaching days are over and done with for Urban Meyer. I think he's comfortable in his own skin, maybe for the first time in a long time, doing what he's doing. I think he enjoys his grandkids. I think he enjoys the life on the Gulf Coast. I know that he enjoys getting out and running that Sea Ray, 38-foot Sea Ray full throttle out in the Gulf. And he likes the gig. And folks, I got to tell you something. I tried very hard to get through an hour of game day, and I can't get past the giggles. I mean, if you want to hear people giggle and so forth like that, watch game day. I flip it over to Big Noon Saturday, and by golly, I hear
much better show.
1,000% better. You hear real analysis by real football people.
Right.
I don't know what they're trying to do on game day other than set a world record for the most giggles they can over a short period of time. But it's absolute. The football content is maybe 3%.
And they got rid of one of the best storytellers in your and Gene Wojciechowski. They dumped him. They have no regard for someone like that, which is crazy. And I'm agreeing with you, but let me just say this. Let me play devil's advocate here. I do know Urban fairly well, as you know, and you know him a little bit. I'm thinking this scenario. Let's just say, okay, give me this scenario. They get down to a point where they can decide Billy can't be the one, can't do it, all right? And they got to go out and hire somebody. And you want somebody who's proven they can win a championship. The guy's got 2 trophies right there in the case. They say the new president, I hear, a huge football fan, not real happy, I hear also. Let's just say that he says, we need to go get Urban Meyer. Let's offer him 3 years at $40 million and say, we need you to come home for 3 years to fix this program. I don't care. Hire Steve Spurrier as your consultant. Bring back Dan Meldon as the OC, whatever. I mean, do what you want to do. And we need you, Urban. We need you to fix this for us. He's still a Gator now. He is a Gator. You know, he coached up there. He's told me many times it's where his heart is. And he says, well, what's Urban's age? Not very old by standards. And I could do 3 years. I can fix this. Comment on that.
First and foremost, I don't think Billy Napier is going anywhere, nor do I think Scott Strickland is going anywhere. In fact, I would be willing to bet the farm that neither one of them are. But I can tell you this much. A year from December, if we've still got a problem, then we got another issue. I talked to somebody today who makes decisions at the University of Florida, makes big decisions. And I asked him, I said, do you know what Mike Norvell's career record is at FSU right now? I said, Mike Norvell's the hottest guy in the country. You know what his record is right now?
Not very good.
19-17.
Above 500.
19-17 right now. This is the guy that everybody says is the next great coach. I mean, he's going to whip Saban and Kirby with one hand tied behind his back.
I'm not willing to go that far with Norvell.
Well, people are saying it, buddy.
I know. I understand this, and I agree with you.
But I'm going to tell you this much. A year from December, if Florida goes through a bad season this year and compounds it with a bad season next year, then you can start talking about the ifs, ands, and maybes of a new coach. Until then.
Or if he gets his ass kicked by Tennessee, that's not going to be good. I'm saying if he does. I'm not saying he will. I'm saying if he does. And then for every stat, there's another stat. Here's a stat on coaches with the 8th loss. Okay? Urban Meyer, 39th game, 31-8. Will Muschamp, 26th game, 18-8. Jim McElwain, 26th game, 18-8. Dan Mullen, 37th game, 29-8. Billy Napier, 14th game, 6-8. It's the numbers. It's what it is. So, again, but I'll say this too. Urban Meyer did not inherit a program that had slid as far as this one had. Yeah. Urban Meyer did not. Urban Meyer didn't have a transfer portal either, friends. And he does. No, Billy's got one.
No, but he had a number 1 recruiting class behind him, and guys who had been here and knew what it's all about.
Okay. All right.
I'm going to tell you right now, the guys this year, he's not in trouble. If Tennessee kicks his ass, he's not in trouble. A year from December, if there's a problem, then you can start. Then Billy Napier can be sweating. But or maybe a year from November if it's in the tank. But right now, it ain't gonna happen. It's just not going to happen. And the reason being, as Scott Strickland has told me personally, we cannot have a revolving door, which is what we've got. You know how many football coaches?
And who did that?
Well, guess what? Even before that.
The AD, the president, and or part of that, and it was
Ron Zook, Urban Meyer, Will Muschamp, Jim McElwain, Dan Mullen. This is the 6th coach since 2001. It's a revolving door, and if you don't give the guy a chance to build and stop the revolving door, you're going to wind up with a situation where no matter how much money you've got, you're not going to be able to hire somebody. But I'm going to throw something at you why Billy Napier is safe this year. Florida has this big budget, and next year, all of a sudden, the money that's going to be coming in from ESPN, Florida's going to be up there making about, let's say about a cool first year, probably about $80 million. Just a guess right now. $80 million. That covers all the bases. They are not going to need alumni money. Florida's going to be able to tell alumni money, put your money in NIL. We got to have players. And trust me, the way this guy recruits, they're going to get the players. But you cannot have that revolving door. And that's what we've got right now, a revolving door.
All right, talk about what you saw FSU LSU.
LSU is not nearly as good as I thought they would be. Sure, we can say the same thing about them as we can say about Florida, that they got time to right the ship. But I think they got real problems. I'm looking at the sideline, people yelling at each other, screaming at each other. I think LSU's got real issues. I think they're a 9-3 team, maybe an 8-4 even. Here's the difference. I got to ask this question earlier today. You got South Carolina, which got beaten by North Carolina. It was 31-17. Wasn't nearly as close as the score might indicate. It was a beatdown. It wasn't just a 14-point win. It was a beatdown. You got LSU that got a gift touchdown there at the end, but for all practical purposes, got beat by 4 touchdowns. Here's the difference between Florida and those two. Florida could have won their game. The Gators could have won their ball game. South Carolina could not have won that ball game. LSU could not have won that ball game. Florida may be closer to being a decent team than either one of these others. And, we had all these people some people picked South Carolina to be number 2 in the SEC East.
Yeah, they didn't look so good, did they, Franz?
Ain't going to happen. Not with that offensive line. Florida's offensive line will be better. I would be surprised if Florida doesn't run for 300 yards this week. I'll be surprised if they don't put up about 550, 600 offensive yards this week. Billy's done this stuff before. We got to remember something. In 2019, for example,
yeah,
he opens his season in 2019 with Mississippi State.
Yeah.
And guess what? He gets his butt handed to him on a platter by Mississippi State. They got 430 yards, but they lost the game 48-38. 38-28. They lost it. But then they come back the next week. They win 35-14, 77-6, 45-25, on and on and on. He lost that first game, and they regrouped.
Yeah, I know. And I hear what you're saying, Franz. And you're good. You're spot on. But then the other people say, this ain't Louisiana, okay? This is the Florida Gators. And so what he did there is not comparable yet. Can he do it? I don't know. I think we're saying now we have to ask ourselves the question, as much as you and I want him to be the man, is he the man? And I think right now it's hard to find that evidence. And that's what people are talking about. So, again, I don't want to sound like I'm rabble-rousing here. It's not my style. I've had great relationships with Florida coaches over the years, as you, and I don't wish them any bad luck. But what we're seeing now on the field, I don't know. It's not measuring up, Franz. It's just not measuring up.
Well, like I said, buddy, and what's the old adage? The most improvement any team makes is from game 1 to game 2. We saw Florida, for example, the Gators in that 2006 season opener, they won, but I didn't think they were played particularly well in that. But then all of a sudden it starts gaining momentum. You improve. I go back to something that was said by by Vince Lombardi, and Vince Lombardi said that it's a game. It's a game where you have to keep making the adjustments. You have to keep doing this. The thing about it is to throw all the what we call noise in the system. That was what Ron Zook called it. If you're able to put all the noise in the system away, then guess what? You end up doing pretty good. I think there's a lot of work to be done. I think that the Gators have it within them, but again, we're going to see. Goodness, it's still early. It is still early, and it's one game doesn't a season make, and we can say all we want to about how bad they looked, whatever like that. Well, guess what? What happens if they look really good and then come back and beat Tennessee? A lot of people are going to feel pretty damn silly. That's all I've had to say about it.
Well, I think it is in the books, though, that they played poorly. They were not ready. So what happens? We'll see what next. We'll move on to the next game. We'll see what happens. Let's move on to one more thing here. I hope we got our Wi-Fi problems resolved. I think we're getting a little betrayed by Cox, but we keep on trying here. Thanks for bearing with us, folks, on this. It's just been a nightmare tonight. But here's the thing. Let's talk about the ACC. What happened? All of a sudden, this is a different conference. We know the situation. The SEC did not want to expand. Now we've got ACC going coast to coast and in Texas. It announced today. Your thoughts about what has happened to the ACC, Franz?
I think the ACC has weakened itself considerably. I think the ACC has ensured that Florida State, North Carolina, and who's the other one? Clemson are going to find a way out as quickly as they can. And if they can find a way out, I think others will too. This was, it's a move. ACC has sold its soul for $4 million a year. That's what it's going to amount to, picking this thing up. They get $4 million a year per school out of this. So instead of making $44 million, they're going to be making close to $48 or $49 million. Let me put